We start this hour in the United States, where 47 employees of LG Energy Solutions were among the approximately 450 to 475 workers detained in a large-scale U.S. immigration raid on September the 4th of 2025. The operation targeted the construction site of a joint venture electric vehicle battery plant in Elabel, Georgia, involving LGES and Hyundai Motor Group. Most detainees, including LGES employees and contractors, were reportedly South Korean nationals accused of violating visa terms. Many had entered the U.S. on B-1 business visas or the ESTA visa waiver program, which do not permit work at construction sites. LG Energy Solution emphasized its commitment to employee safety and cooperation with authorities, suspending non-essential travel to the U.S. amid the investigation. The South Korean Foreign Ministry expressed regret and urged U.S. authorities to ensure the rights of Korean citizens and businesses are protected during enforcement operations. We're now joined by Andrew Latham, who is a professor of international relations, and he joins us live from Minnesota. Andrew, thank you very much for joining us and taking the time to talk about this issue. Andrew, what does this large-scale raid say about the Trump administration's current stance on immigration enforcement in relation to foreign corporations?
Well, it says that there's a real tension here between, on the one hand, the desire, the impulse to onshore the production, manufacture of certain cutting-edge, high-tech industries, such as electric vehicles and batteries that power those vehicles. That's the one impulse. On the other impulse, there's a really powerful drive to enforce visa and border control. And so these two impulses have run into each other, generating this kind of friction at this particular site. It's interesting that it is involving the nationals of a country, South Korea, that has not really been in the crosshairs of the Trump administration for a variety of geopolitical and other reasons. It's interesting that this particular tension has touched down in this particular, and also Georgia, the state of Georgia, which is a crucially important electoral state for the Republicans. And this particular project is hugely important in terms of the development plans of the state of Georgia. So there's a number of different moving parts, all of which seem to have collided at one point this morning. And it remains to be seen how, if at all, the Trump administration can navigate this.
Yes, and Andrew, the South Korean Foreign Ministry has expressed regret and has said to the U.S. to ensure the rights of its citizens are upheld. Are the South Koreans warranted in worrying about the rights of their citizens in this case?
Well, they are and they aren't. It doesn't surprise me that a high-level task force has been created in Seoul to make sure, to hold the Trump administration's feet to the fire, as it were. That doesn't surprise me. What does surprise me is that there's any concern that the rule of law wouldn't be followed in this regard. There are, as there are always in legal cases, and these are likely to become legal cases very quickly, there's some gray zone. Were these workers working without the appropriate visas? Were they, was it some kind of workaround that was in place to avoid having to get those visas? Well, that's the charge. That's the allegation. It remains to be seen what the facts on the ground are. Of course, Hyundai and LG Energy Solutions, are contesting the proposition that these workers and contractors, subcontractors, were in violation of American visa regulations and laws. And of course, the United States government is claiming that they were. And so that has to be sorted out probably in a court of law, but perhaps with the government in Seoul putting its fingers on the scales of justice, as it were, putting a little bit of pressure on the U.S. government not to single out South Korean workers, not to single out South Korean firms and their contractors.
Yeah, Andrew, we know that Donald Trump campaigned in 2024 of the biggest deportation program in U.S. history. This case here is a bit of a grey area. How do you think the people of America are feeling about how that operation is going and how these agents are acting in this process?
Well, Americans, there's no such thing as an American point of view. It's a very diverse country with a lot of diverse perspectives, as you know. Some people think this is wonderful, that not this particular case, but the general mass deportation program is welcome. They see this as a problem in the United States, unlawful migration, undocumented migrants, and welcome the federal government stepping up its game, as it were. Others are much more negatively inclined towards the whole enterprise. They see this as singling out people of particular ethnic backgrounds. So there's a racist and racial component to it. They see it as, you can't find Americans to do these jobs. Of course, we have to bring people in from overseas or across the border at least. To do the jobs that Americans can't or won't do anymore. So there are real political differences in this country, not only between the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, but even within the Republican Party, there are differences.
Andrew Latham, thank you very much for taking the time. Pleasure to talk to you on that issue. For our next story, we move over to West Asia,